Good afternoon. I'm just watching everybody eat, so just continue on, So, it is so great to have you all back in DC. I think it was about a year ago that we had our national convening, but it's a pleasure to welcome each and every one of you that's been traveling with us today. So we're glad to have you here today. It's fitting that we are hosting our Elder Justice and Independent Living Seminar at this time when we have embarked and are celebrating Older Americans Month. You can clap. This is the month that we spend recognizing the numerous diverse contributions of older Americans that enrich our society. And yet, while we highlight and celebrate their contributions to us, they, our seniors, especially those who live alone, are the targets for scam artists. Their vulnerabilities, which often comes with aging, makes them susceptible to and highly attractive to the growing number of con artists who are always thinking of ways to prey on those vulnerabilities. Some of you may have heard this story, and it's about my own mother. She's an educated woman in her 80s. One day I got a call from my niece, and she said, "Something's wrong with Grandma." I said, "What's up?" She goes, "She's acting really strange." So she received a call that they told her that she had a problem with her Microsoft, so she paid $399 to get that fixed. And the next thing they did is they called and told her that they knew where she banked, they knew what credit cards she had, and if she didn't go get $5,000, they would take everything. Well, she made it through that call and realized it was a scam, but then she got a call a few months later that told her her grandson was in jail. She needed $5,000 on her Target credit card to call in, and on her way to the bank, luckily my mother, even after I had preached and preached and preached, "Mom, don't fall for anything like this." On her way to the bank, she said, "Maybe I should remember what Debbie said," and she called her grandson, and he said, "Grandma, I'm not in jail." So, you know, y'all, this has become very personal. Who is to say what might have happened had she not thought to call her grandson? Who is to say what the perpetuators would continue to do, continue to call and harass her if she not reported it? And you know, that's one of the reasons upon my first day at CNCS, during my first federal interagency Elder Justice Council meeting, I decided that Senior Corps would be instrumental in combating elder financial and other abuses against seniors. Now we are extremely fortunate to have the support of some great partners in this fight: the Administration for Community Living, the Department of Justice, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, the Federal Trade Commission, the U.S. Postal Inspector Services, and so much more. These agencies have been highly instrumental in sharing their expertise to help us educate you so that we can educate and engage our volunteers. Shortly, you will hear from two of their leaders, Lance Robertson from ACL and Toni Bacon from the Department of Justice. Then, over the next 2 days, you will hear from several others during your workshop sessions. But first, let me say to you, thank you. Our Senior Corps projects who have taken up the sword to help in this fight. While I can say that Senior Corps is fully vested in using our resources in this battle, it is you sitting in this room. It is our Senior Corps directors who are on the battlefield of your local communities, and for that, we appreciate you. I'm very proud of the work that you do, that you've done in educating yourselves to ensure a high level of engagement of Senior Corps volunteers in this effort, and especially of how creative you've been to developing programming that protects the older residents in your communities. Please allow me to cite a few examples of how our volunteers are engaged in this battle. Many of our volunteers are trained to be gatekeepers to help prevent homebound and other elders from fraud and abuse, and to help victims report incidences of fraud or abuse. Some are helping victimized adults apply for social benefits and other support services for which they qualify. We have volunteers who are serving to help prevent opioid abuse and addiction, which, as you know, is a big issue when it comes to preventing elder abuse. These volunteers distribute Dexterra drug deactivation system bags to seniors to remove the drugs from their homes, to prevent their children and or grandchildren from raiding their medicine cabinets. And we have volunteers who actually, Toni, listen, who actually serve in State Attorney General's office, answering consumer hotline calls and helping to expedite cases of frauds and scams. Later, you will hear from Toni from the DOJ, so I hope she will listen carefully to the examples that I set in a video I'm going to show in a little bit. Now, let me get back to the point that all of you are here for, our directors. I know that we could not make these strides were it not for the hard work that you do in your communities. So once again, as I said before, I thank you, sincerely thank you. Please continue the work. It's your work that helps to balance the scales of justice for older Americans in this country. And now I'm going to stop chattering. Oh, I could do that a lot. And talk to you about our first speaker, Lance Robertson. Lance was appointed to serve as Assistant Secretary for Aging and ACL's administrator on August 11th of 2017. He has an extensive history of leadership in the fields of aging and disability that began in Oklahoma. If we got anybody here, it's okay. You can clap. I knew they'd be here. He served there for 10 years as Director of Aging Services in the state's Department of Human Services. Prior to that, he spent 12 years at Oklahoma State University, where he co-founded the Gerontology Institute and served as Executive Director of the nation's largest regional gerontology association. As the ACL Administrator and Assistant Secretary for Aging, Lance directs the Federal Interagency Elder Justice Coordinating Council, a permanent group of federal agencies, departments, and programs across the federal government that collaborate to address elder justice issues nationally. And let me also share with you that ever since I arrived, Lance has been and continues to be a huge supporter and friend of Senior Corps. So it's my honor to introduce my friend, Senior Corps' friend and a leader, Lance Robertson.
Thank you. Oh, I don't think I do. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday. You're in D.C., really in a rare, beautiful day. I know the temperatures are great, so go out and enjoy what you can, and hope lunch has been good. I walked by a chocolate chip cookie that was the size of a hubcap, so you ought to really partake and enjoy that. I want to thank all of you for an opportunity to be here, to say a few words at this incredibly valuable convening. I want to take a minute, of course, right up front and just thank all of you, as Debbie did, and really recognize the hard work being done across our country through CNCS and the programs that are administered by that federal agency, certainly as they likewise serve the critical needs of seniors all across the country. That is a common mission that we have with the Administration on Community Living as well. So again, thanks for all your hard work. It's good to see Beth Patterson from Oklahoma. I've known Beth a long time. Actually, I started working with Senior Corps folks back in the mid-90s, and really since that time have had such a great appreciation for what you do. So again, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today, especially as we pause to recognize the contributions of older citizens during Older Americans Month. For the last 56 years, our nation has set aside each May to honor the value and contributions made by older adults across our communities. This year's Older Americans month theme is Connect, Create, and Contribute, which encourages older adults and their communities to do the following. First of all, to connect with friends, families, local service providers, and resources. Secondly, to create through activities that promote learning, health, and personal enrichment. And then finally, to contribute time, talent, and life experiences for the benefit of others. Really, again, that is, I think, a Senior Corps motto. And a matter of fact, in our theme, we actually use some pictures from some Senior Corps activities, and certainly I think that reflects the breadth and the depth of the work that you're involved in. So this Older Americans Month theme dovetails with ACL's commitment to expanding the reach of communities to more effectively assist older adults to remain socially active and engaged. We have a long history at ACL of supporting programs that seek to enhance the lives of older adults through a variety of activities, including volunteerism, physical activity, and intergenerational efforts. So we are pleased to support the Engaged National Resource Center that is highlighting and encouraging efforts to help older adults stay engaged, and you can learn more about that at our website at engagingolderadults.org, engagingolderadults.org. We also know that older adults have been the backbone of many of the programs that we actually administer at ACL. Many of these programs rely on Senior Corps volunteers, and we value the experience and the dedication that they bring to our programs. Their commitment demonstrates that serving others not only changes the lives of those who have been served, but certainly impacts the life of the person serving. As each of you know, collaboration is key among federal, state, and local entities. At the federal level, we are pleased to have had a long history of working in collaboration with the corporation and with Senior Corps, particularly. Debbie, Director Roush, and I have been already working quite closely together and have a great working relationship, as she referenced, and are committing to meeting regularly. I think just last month, and maybe some of you participated, we also collaborated on a wonderful webinar, which also included our good friend, the U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams, as we kicked off Volunteer Week, focused on the importance of intergenerational relationships. I think we had about 250 or so participants. Who in the room participated for an extra chocolate chip cookie? You spoke. That's what, you had to be there. Yeah. Well, for those of you that didn't, I'm sorry. It probably is, I'm assuming on our website, you can go hit the link and watch it again. You can get half a chocolate chip cookie if you watch it again. We are though soon going to be signing an MOU that we're proud about as well between ACL and the corporation that will just continue to build on prior efforts and on the talented volunteers that we have and meeting the needs of seniors. So again, excited about that. I think we'll announce when that signing is going to happen probably sometime in the next month or so. Let's pivot now. I want to talk to you a little bit about ACL and then most importantly the topic for this particular symposium, and that is elder justice, elder abuse. ACL was created around the fundamental principle that all people, regardless of age or disability, should be able to live independently and fully participate in their communities. We actually are part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, a $1.6 trillion federal agency. We are one of the operating divisions there. Our portfolio at ACL involves serving older adults and people with disabilities. I encourage you, I invite you to check out more about ACL at acl.gov. We also have 5 pillars that we promote, encourage, really unify around at ACL, key areas that are critical to both the aging and disability communities. Those pillars are connecting people to resources, strengthening our networks, expanding employment opportunities, supporting families and caregivers, and protecting rights and preventing abuse. I believe that these pillars represent ACL's priorities as well as those of CNS and Senior Corps by supporting a strong foundation of dignity, independence, and elder justice. For example, I know that we can reduce elder abuse by supporting caregivers, and I believe that we can reduce the impact of abuse on victims by strengthening our network of services. But today I want to focus on that 5th pillar and ACL's role in protecting rights and preventing abuse. I know that we can all play a critical role in supporting this pillar. As you know, elder abuse directly impacts a person's ability to function effectively and independently in the community. The most reliable data on prevalence tells us that elder abuse impacts about 1 in 10 older adults who are abused, neglected, or exploited each year, and that as many as 4 in 10 are the victims of financial exploitation. Those data points likely, I believe, are underreported. That's my opinion. We know that elder abuse, though, is a big problem, so we're often asked, what is the federal government doing about that specifically? And you're going to hear today, what is HHS, what is DOJ doing, as well as the collaborative efforts across some of the other work that's happening. I can tell you at ACL, we oversee a wide range of federal programs dedicated to addressing the entire spectrum of elder abuse, including physical abuse, emotional and verbal abuse, neglect, financial exploitation, and self-neglect. One way that I know that we're working to combat the problem is through collaboration. Collaboration and cooperation are key to preventing, recognizing, and mitigating the effects of abuse. As Debbie mentioned, ACL is honored to be the convener of the federal government's Elder Justice Coordinating Council. The Elder Justice Act established this coordinating council in 2010 to identify and propose solutions to this epidemic of elder abuse, as well as coordinate activities related to elder abuse, neglect, and exploitation across the federal government. Through collaboration with the federal agencies comprising the Elder Justice Coordinating Council, which includes CNCS and DOJ, we are effectively at ACL leading progress and sparking much-needed federal leadership in this space. The EJCC marks the first time in history that all of the federal departments with a stake in elder justice have come together to identify gaps, make recommendations, and coordinate activities. The Council and its Elder Justice Interagency Working Group have created better coordination between federal departments, and I want to give a shout out to a team of my colleagues at a table over here that really lift that effort. If you guys can wave, please. Thank you. Appreciate all of these folks. And then certainly a critical partner is the Department of Justice, and exploring the issues of elder abuse as an example around rural, frontier, and tribal communities, which has been a conversation over the last year. We also employ a coordinated effort within ACL, promoting justice and preventing, recognizing, and mitigating the effects of abuse. Again, when you're part of a $1.6 trillion federal agency, we had a lot of work to do even within our own agency on how we can spark those critical conversations. We also fund, so that you're aware, publicly facing, 5 technical assistance resource centers. The National Center on Elder Abuse, the National APS, Adult Protective Services, Technical Assistance Resource Center, the National Long-Term Care Ombudsman Resource Center, the National Center on Law and Elder Rights, and finally the National Education and Resource Center on Women and Retirement. So I want to talk to you a little bit about another sub-priority within this conversation, and that is, how do we reframe the conversation around elder justice? One of the factors that has a strong correlation to lowering the risk of elder justice and abuse involves social embeddedness and social support. Several studies demonstrate that higher levels of social support and greater embeddedness in a social network lowers the risk of elder abuse. In addition, and I know this is not a surprise, recent research conducted with Senior Corps volunteers suggests that remaining socially engaged also improves both the quality of life of older adults and is associated with better health. So that's obviously part of the secret sauce if we want to age well. I know you get to see that daily. Debbie was telling me the average age, 73. I think of the Senior Corps volunteer, celebrating recently a volunteer who was 102. So all of us now have a watermark. Yeah? We do need more policies, though, of course, that connect people to our communities at all stages of life. So that's something that organically we need to see happening at the local, state, and then federal level. Recently, much has been learned about the individual and societal impact of social isolation and loneliness. Based on current estimates, isolation is a social problem that impacts as many as 17% of older adults. Again, I think that's also a number that is probably underreported. We also know that in terms of your health, isolation equates to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's a pretty remarkable statistic. In order to foster effective policy change, the Frameworks Institute recommends that we emphasize the value of justice when communicating about elder abuse. Framing elder abuse as a social justice issue means asserting the fundamental equality of older adults. So follow me. By stressing that older adults are equal members of society, which we shouldn't have to do, but we need to do. By stressing that older adults are equal members of our society, this value highlights the importance of engaging older adults as full participants in society. It situates older people as equal and important participants in communities, which makes people more receptive to solutions designed to prevent social isolation through greater integration into their communities, thereby lowering the risk of elder abuse. Again, a pretty simple formula, but it's powerful, and it's one that we need to see germinate across our country. I know that CNCS and Senior Corps volunteers are critical to this effort of decreasing social isolation and bolstering integration in communities. And again, I thank you. Real quickly, more specifically about one of our shops within ACL. We have an Office of Elder Justice and Adult Protective Services, and that elder rights team is also exploring new innovations to decrease isolation and support the development of programs that help practitioners identify people at risk of abuse, neglect, and exploitation so that they can prevent it or intervene as early as possible. In 2016, ACL established the Elder Justice Innovation Grants, programs that support efforts aimed at increasing knowledge about effective prevention and intervention of abuse and neglect. Funded projects contribute to the evidence base of knowledge and create materials and programs that are replicated and shared. And we also at ACL are supporting some exciting new innovations in this space by current grantees. A couple of examples for you. The Center for Elder Law and Justice is implementing an Elder Justice Navigator program designed to provide remote court navigation assistance and coordination of community-based services to older adults who have experienced maltreatment. We also, moving way further north and west, we have a tribe in Bethel, Alaska, who is another recipient of one of our innovation grants, and they're working on a program that aims to advance elder justice and independent living in Indian country. With this grant, the Native Council is creating a multidisciplinary team of several agencies and organizations representing a variety of experiences and disciplines, as well as increasing support services for elders, including congregate meals, transportation, and social and cultural activities. So that's a real quick snapshot of some of the work that's happening specifically at ACL, a nod to the work that's happening across the federal government with the 14 agencies that are participating in the Elder Justice Coordinating Council. And I would close by saying this. For those of you, again, that do such valuable work in the community, each and every one of you, I'm going to be bold enough to say that this is an issue that you either have been confronted with or will be confronted with. This is an issue that for us to eradicate, we must make it personal. Debbie shared, thankfully, her story about her own mother. And I can tell you in the 19 months that I've been in this role, I have had not one, not two, but 3 different instances in the Robertson household where abuse occurred that should not have occurred. My challenge to myself, my challenge to all of you, is that we have to make it personal. We have to tackle elder abuse household by household by household. And when we all become more aware, when we're all a little bolder in stepping in, that's when we can really, most significantly, see the needle move. So looking ahead, ACL is committed to continuing to explore and invest in new innovations and programs that assist older adults to remain socially active and engaged and that support the foundation of dignity, independence, and elder justice in order to better support the world that we all envision. We look forward to our continued work with the corporation and on engaging those integral volunteers in meeting the growing needs of seniors across America. I look forward to seeing some of you in Ohio. I know you have 2 other symposiums coming up. I'll miss the one in Colorado, but I will see you in Ohio, Toni's home state. We might see Toni as well. But again, I want to thank the corporation for all the great work that they do. I want to thank each and every one of you individually for the work that you do. Thank you for allowing me to come and talk to you a little bit about ACL. It is essential that we all remain connected and coordinated in order to build upon the work that's already done and to add value and knowledge to the work that we do and to amplify the criticality around this conversation. So again, thanks so much for your time. I hope you have a great conference and enjoy your time in Washington, D.C.
Lance is going to rush out because he's got a hearing on the Hill this afternoon, and I guess when the Hill calls, you go, right? So thank you, Lance, and thank you for your continued support of our programs. I believe that all of you know, or if you don't, I'm going to tell you now, that Senior Corps, as Lance said, has a memorandum of understanding with ACL in which we agreed to work together on mutual issues and highlight and promote each agency's programs and activities. That MOU expired last year, but as he said, we've recently renegotiated it, and so we'll be signing that in the near future. So we appreciate him, we appreciate the partnership with ACL, and just as we continue to move forward in this most important space. So now I'd like to share something with you, but before I do, I think all of you have heard me say that I hope my legacy when I leave here, whenever that may be, is to leave it better than I found it. The other thing is to make sure Senior Corps is not the best kept secret. And you can clap on that. I'm happy with that. So I think over the last 2 years we've made great strides. We're not done. There's a lot still to do, but I'm hoping today that you see our partnerships with other federal agencies where we don't try to reinvent the wheel, but we try to work together to help older Americans is so important. So I'm very excited that Lance, and you're going to hear about Toni in a minute, came today, but I also hope you all recognize that partnerships with federal agencies, and we're starting in public, but I'm not done. We're going to go to private, guys, so we'll keep going on those partnerships. So I just wanted to share that with you. The other thing I'd like to share is something with the group before I do introduce our next speaker. I mentioned earlier that we have Senior Corps volunteers creating impact by serving in the Attorney General's office. You heard me say that, right, Toni? Okay. So in fact, let's watch a brief video about just that.
So it comes in a lot of shapes and sizes, and there's a lot of schemes out there designed to trick seniors and older Americans.
My mom went into this car dealership because she received a pre-screen letter saying that she was approved for a car. Her intention was just to get information on how she could co-sign for the car. Because they did not want her leaving the property with the car, they had her sign, backdate a check and leave a down payment and drove her home in a car because they wanted to give her a car that day. They tried taking the car back the next day and the dealer would not take the car back. It bothered her a lot. It bothered her a lot because it made her feel like she was negligent or like she didn't know. I know it did. I know it bothered her. I could see it in her face for that week, that like, what have I done? We went down to motor vehicle and motor vehicle wasn't able to help us. They told us to reach out to the Attorney General office. So she said, I don't know what can be done because she did sign the contract, but go ahead and fax me all the information that you have. She said she will try and see what she can do. The next day, about noon, she emailed me and she said, okay, I sent your complaint over to the dealer and we'll just wait to see what they'll do. By 3 o'clock that day, we got a call from the dealer that they'll come in to take the car.
Our volunteers here at the Attorney General's office in Connecticut are working on elder fraud issues, dealing with them from a peer-to-peer perspective, investigating and mediating to help them get outcomes.
I'm a Senior Corps volunteer at the Attorney General's office in Connecticut, investigating complaints filed by seniors, dealing with scams and fraud, mediating those claims and trying to get restitution as necessary. My service here at the agency, the Attorney General's office, is important to me and to the consumer and the seniors because I feel that the efforts that I put forth gives me a sense of satisfaction when I can help them get justice.
The program is vital. The advocates work on cases that we would normally be handling, but for the fact that we get about 2,000 to 3,000 a year, and they help us mediate, they contact the company, they resolve cases, not only small cases, but big cases where eventually can become litigation. But they're very, very important to the program. Without them, we would be lost.
My service here is varied, and I find the variety to be very challenging. And what I like most about this is that I'm able to deal with people who feel that they've been a victim and oftentimes embarrassed and don't have a recourse to get their opinions heard and acted on. And being able to serve as that spokesman and be able to work with them to get a solution is very rewarding.
So we're very lucky. We have a core of seniors here in Connecticut who are helping us out. And one of them, Jim Probolis, is one of our leaders here in the office. Our senior volunteers help us staff our consumer assistance unit. Seniors have so much to offer and so much to give, and the fact is that people are living much longer and much more productive lives than they were a generation ago. Having the opportunity to channel that into teaching others and deploying those skills to helping others is a huge help for us. And I don't know if Jim knows this, but we're going to count on him to do it for years and years to come.
Isn't that great? You know, I especially like the part where Attorney General Tong said, we're going to count on Jim for years and years to come. Is Teresa Strong in the room? Oh, come on, stand up. This program is Teresa's program. I had the privilege of visiting the program in Connecticut. Of course, it went straight to my heart, the work that they're doing there. Please thank Jim and Richard and all of your volunteers. And my goal is to replicate this across the country. Hi, Toni. How was that for a hint? Our next speaker is nationally recognized as one of the country's premier public corruption attorneys. She has earned 2 of the highest awards in the Department of Justice, along with awards from the IRS, the U.S. Postal Service, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for her prosecution of fraud, waste, and corruption. Prior to serving in the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, she served as the National White-Collar Crime Coordinator at the Executive Office of the United States Attorneys, collaborating with prosecutors, agency lawmakers, corporate counsel, and other stakeholders to address our nation's most serious economic threats. She joined DOJ through the Honors Program as a trial attorney, investigating international price-fixing cartels in the Antitrust Division. She's a National Elder Justice Coordinator and an Associate Deputy Attorney General for the United States Department of Justice. Trust me, I don't think you want to commit a crime under her watch. I also found out today, I'll have it up here, she's on my phone and I have a Block O from Ohio State on the back of my phone. She's a fellow Buckeye, so I'm really excited about that. It's such an honor to have her here, and I'd like to present to you Ms. Antoinette Bacon.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. I am just so thrilled to be here and meet 250 other people who hate criminals who are trying to steal money from our nation's seniors. So we have a problem of really epic proportion on our hands. Going back to 2014, which was just a short time ago, we had 2.6 million seniors who were the victim of identity theft. 2.6 million people is the population of the state of New Mexico. So to put this in order of magnitude, we are experiencing this on a wide scale. 13% of older Americans are victims of financial fraud every single year. In 2017, the FBI received nearly 50,000 complaints from seniors with losses exceeding $342 million. And those seem like big numbers, but folks, this is the really scary part. Only 1 in 44 cases of financial abuse is reported. So think about this. $342 million is just a tip of the iceberg. This is having a major impact on our communities, on our nation, and really, you'll hear later throughout the seminar, it's a worldwide problem. And it's getting worse. As America ages, as we are living longer, there is a larger victim pool here. And as technology is advancing to internet and text messages and the robocalls, I got one today. Who's gotten a robocall today? Right? We are going to see these numbers continue to rise, and that's why Attorney General Barr has made this one of the top priorities of the Department of Justice and is asking us to do more. So let's start with why seniors? Why are folks targeting such a treasured part of our community? So a few reasons. One, that's where the money is, right? Millennials don't have money. Seniors have pensions, seniors have savings, seniors have inheritances from their family, right? They have a pool of money where they can be taken advantage of. They're accessible. They're at home and have time to open their mail every day and pick up the phone when it rings and read through all of those emails. Many are isolated, and this is what our good friend Lance just spoke about, right? When folks are isolated, they don't hear about scams. They don't have someone to run something by, right? They don't have anyone to call or talk to, and they really, really want to believe the person on the other end of that phone cares about them, right? They're also attractive targets because many, not all, not most, but many seniors have memory problems. It makes it tough for prosecutors, right? The witness might not remember, might not be able to testify, and criminals count on that, right? And they're more trusting. I think this is one of the most wonderful features of our nation's seniors is they're not cynical. They trust, they believe people want to help and care for each other, but it also makes them susceptible. So what are the scams? I put them in 3 buckets. The first are scams through the mail. So these are the junk mail. You've won a lotto. All you have to do is pay up some money, some taxes up front, right? You won a prize, just pay a small shipping fee. Fake charities, it's one we're seeing a little bit less, but you know, they were helping veterans and really they're just helping themselves. And the psychic scams. For $100, we'll read your future and tell you these wonderful things. And once you start responding to one of these, the mail piles up, you get put on a list, and before you know it, you're buried in junk mail. Second category is online. So these are phishing scams, right, where you click a link and you think it's a cute video of a cat and really it's a link to your bank account, or it's an account that looks like it should be your bank, but it's somebody else's. Online dating is one we're really seeing on the rise with seniors. That as seniors are looking for companionship, some of the folks on these dating websites are taking advantage and luring them into giving money to support this alleged loved one. And then finally, tech support scams, right? This is the call that we just heard about very sadly, and that is your computer has a virus, you need to do something right away. And you know, seniors, they don't understand the computer, they're scared of the computer, and so what do? They want to do anything to make the problem go away, and that's where it really starts to go downhill fast. So we have mail, we have online. Third bucket are the phone scams. I kid you not, Attorney General Sessions received one of these phone scams on his phone. If the AG can get a call from an IRS imposter, anyone can, right? This is a major problem. It's not just IRS. It's pretending to be Social Security. It's pretending to be a local law enforcement. It's someone pretending to be a government official threatening to put someone in jail. And folks, these people are professionals. They're convincing. They're scary. The grandparent scam we heard about. And finally, just telemarketers in general, trying to sell you things you don't need, things you already have, or sell you nothing just in return for money. But they're accessing through the phone. So those are the 3 buckets: mail, internet, phone. Here's one many of you might not have heard of. Who's heard of a money mule? Very few people. So for a lot of these scammers, they figured out that seniors aren't going to send money over to West Africa or send money to Jamaica, right? So they say, send the money to your neighbor in Missouri or to your friend out in California, right? The name is like Joe Smith. And there's someone in those states that collect all this victim money. They're called the mule, and then the mule sends it overseas. So the victims, right, think, well, I'm just sending it to Illinois or Indiana, right? Good Midwestern stock. It can't be a scam. The mules collect it, and the mules send it overseas. Now, how does that relate to seniors? Some of these mules know gosh darn well what they're doing. They're involved with the scam. They're conspirators. We're finding them. We're charging them. We're prosecuting them. We're convicting them. But some don't know. Some are actually seniors. Many are seniors. Many were victims of one of these scams that gets roped into being a mule. They don't know that really they're the bank for the cartel. It's essentially what these people are, right? They're the bank. They're collecting the money. They're sending it overseas. They don't know. Sometimes they think they're working for a friend or one of these romance scams, right? I'm just helping out a loved one. Some of these work-at-home scams, many of you might have seen ads in the paper. I'm not here to say every work-at-home opportunity is a scam. That is not the takeaway. The takeaway is some work-at-home opportunities are scams, right? Just process some payments for us. Just collect money and send it out. Just reship for eBay. We're going to send packages and you forward it on with money. Be a mystery shopper for XYZ company and we'll send you money. Really, it's not money from a corporation, it's money from other victims going overseas. So I mentioned this is a big problem. I mentioned it's growing. We're now seeing seniors being used as money mules. So the Department of Justice needs a new approach. We're taking on a new strategy, and this is where you all come in. Last year, we designated an elder justice coordinator in every single United States Attorney's office in the country. We have 94 elder justice coordinators. They are the quarterback of the elder justice team in the district, right? So as a national level, as we're collecting this information, as we're learning about scams and opportunities, we push it out to these coordinators who are working in the districts throughout the country. Why are we doing that? Well, think about it. The needs in Ohio are very different from the needs in New York City, which are very different from Florida, which are very different to Oregon. And we recognize that each and every one of you have different challenges in your community and different resources. And the idea is, let's take these community ideas. One, let's see if we can share some best practices, but two, allow for very targeted approaches in the community with, again, national support. So examples of who's on our team: local law enforcement, your sheriffs, your police officers, your state troopers; federal law enforcement, FTC, HHS, right? Postal inspectors, FBI. We're also bringing together the ombudsman, the state and local prosecutors and state AG office, and a big red circle, and who we'd love to have as part of our team in every single district is you. We'd love to have Senior Corps involved. Why? Because we think you can help us with both offense and defense. You can help educate, and you can help us find victims and help us identify cases so we can prevent crime and, when necessary, prosecute it and give the victim support. All right, educate how? One, we have to learn what the scams are, so then you can teach others what are the scams, right? So whether it's mail, whether it's the phone, whether it's the internet, learning the scams and teaching people so they understand what they are. The next thing, educating folks on who are the victims. What are the signs? How do you know if someone might be a victim? So this isn't just educating seniors, it's educating folks who come in contact with seniors. Who doesn't come in contact with seniors, right? So we need to educate everybody, because the community will understand, the community will then help their neighbors and friends. So here are some signs. Suddenly folks are sending money via wire transfer. Again, not every Western Union or wire transfer is illegal, I don't want to suggest that, but it's a sign that perhaps this person's a victim. They start mailing letters overseas when they've never even been to Canada. Now they're sending things to Jamaica, right, or to Panama or Costa Rica. They're buying bulk gift cards, 5, 10, 20, 30 at a time, and it's not the holiday season, right? Because some of these scammers want payment in gift cards, right? Piles of junk mail in the house, beyond what we normally get in a day. High volume of these calls, the robocalls, beyond what all of us are receiving. This is a big one. Changes in demeanor, hygiene, personality. Could be a sign they're very stressed, they're very anxious, or they're starting to lose their money, right? And they just can't keep up. For romance scams especially, new friends, especially friends no one's ever met, but friends that just appear to be on the phone or online. And home in disrepair, again, could be another example of they're diverting money and don't have the funds to mow the grass anymore or to hire someone to come out and help do the paint. So any one of these could be signs and signals, and the more you see, the more we start to get concerned. right? Educating folks on the sign of who's a money mule, right? New work-at-home jobs, and they've never met their colleagues, you've never met their colleagues, they're just kind of working at home. When you ask them what they're doing for their job, it sounds like they're a bank, right? They collect money in and take money out, and these people's backgrounds aren't as CPAs, accountants, and bookkeepers, right? Could be another sign or signal. So that brings us to who needs to be educated. Who do we need to share? Well, I would really encourage you all today and tomorrow to brainstorm on this, right? It's not just seniors, it's not just their caregivers, it's not just doctors and nurses, it's not just families, bank tellers. Bank tellers, especially, I come from, Cleveland area, and I go to my local bank. They've known me since the time I was knee-high to a grasshopper, right? The tellers know you, they know your spending habits, they know when their customers are doing something different. They can notice the signs. Store clerks, right? You go into the same drugstore, the same local market every year for 30, 40 years, and suddenly you're buying all these gift cards. You're buying something different. They can recognize signs. Postal workers are outstanding resources because they see the increase in junk mail. They see where mail's going out, right? Healthcare providers, they're going to see the change in the physical, right? That evidence is stress. I just started with this, and someone the other day mentioned, how about hair salon, nail technicians, right? Places where seniors might go weekly, they might notice a change. So I'd be really interested to get your all's feedback after this of who else should be educated, where should we go with this information? So once we train people up, the question we get all the time is, what do I do? Who do I call? Where do I go? Do I call the state? Do I call the county, the police, the sheriff, you? I just don't know where to go with this. And so what we'd like to do, with your all's help, is spread the word that for financial fraud, we're not talking physical abuse, where obviously 911 might be the first call, right? But for these financial cases, to report. We can't investigate if we don't know, right? We need to know when people are victims. And this is where we're seeing victims are so embarrassed. They're ashamed. They feel like they should have known better. They don't want to tell. They feel it's a sign of weakness. And that breaks my heart. Maybe it breaks many people's heart in this room, because now they're suffering alone. And then we're going to see the physical decline. We're going to see the withdrawal, the isolation. It's going to compound, right? So we need them to report, and we need you all out there helping to encourage, to report to the Federal Trade Commission's Consumer Sentinel database. I encourage someone to maybe take a picture of that number and maybe share it with the group or the website. We monitor this. We get leads from this. It's a really critical resource, and to share as much information as you all can in this. This is how we can see patterns and trends, to see the same person affecting other communities. The second place to report is the FBI, with a big caution asterisk underlined in bold. If someone was a victim and it very recently happened, think 24 hours, and they report it, in some cases we can get the money back. But it has to be reported quickly, and we have to move fast. So this would not be the case where someone says a week ago or 5 days ago this happened, or even this needs to be almost in real time. So that gets us back to education, right? If people know and they've been victimized and they report, there are some things we can try to do to help. And again, we don't want to raise expectations too high, but we have been very successful in especially the last year when we learned quickly of being able to help with this. So in closing, I would just say that DOJ maintains an outstanding resource center, and Susan Lynch, who's sitting over there, is really the mastermind behind most of this, and really is tailoring and developing some outstanding tools, not only to help you all, but to help state and local communities. So please visit the website, and if you don't see something you need, if we're missing something, please let us know, because we want this a place where all of you can go and get the material and help spread the word. So thank you so much. We value your partnership, and I look forward to seeing you in all 94 U.S. Attorney's offices in the upcoming year. Thank you.
Wow, a lot of information. Thank you so much, Toni, for that, for enlightening us on what's happening across the country and how we can help. And, you know, I agree with what both Lance said and Toni has kind of reiterated. It's personal. When I hear my mother crying on the phone because she's so embarrassed to tell me what she almost just did twice, but they're so real at what they do. They convince our seniors that their son, grandson is really in jail. They convince them. So guys, let's take this up, let's move on, and let's really make this a passion of all of ours, because it should be personal when people attack our older Americans across the country. So Toni, I thank you for being here with us today. You know, I should also note, as I talked about our partnerships, that we're working with Toni's staff on the possibility of developing some pilot programs with the Adult Protective Services, so please stay tuned. I hope we have a lot more announcements to make as far as our collaboration with the Department of Justice in the near future. I want to thank both Toni and Lance for being here with us today. You know, their schedules are always so busy. As a matter of fact, I text Lance this morning. I got an announcement about the hearing he was supposed to be in this afternoon, and I said, you are so appreciated, because I knew at 2:30 he had to go in front of Congress in a hearing. And so, busy lives, but we really do appreciate you.